What's the worst snack for your heart right now? It's not just the usual suspects like sugar or fried food, and it may not be the one your doctor cautioned you about years ago. Today's concern comes from foods many seniors still see as lighter choices. Yet new 2025 research shows they're quietly straining older arteries and even interfering with common medications. Heart disease remains the leading threat to older adults, which is why knowing the real risks matters more than ever. In this video, you'll learn 3 simple ways to read labels better, the one snack to stop buying, and easy swaps that still keep meals satisfying. We're not here to ban comfort, only to point out the traps that are easier to miss with age. And to understand why foods once considered safe now pose bigger problems, let's look at what's changed for senior hearts in 2025. Why senior hearts face new risks in 2025. Back in the 1990s, a box of cereal labeled high fiber or a frozen dinner stamped reduced fat seemed like a responsible choice. These products were marketed as heart-friendly, and many people trusted they supported long-term health. But over time, food processing has shifted. Recipes that once were straightforward now include additives, sweeteners, and reformulated ingredients that don't behave the same way in the body. For example, a cereal promoted as rich in fiber may also carry added sugars or syrups that offset any benefit. What looks light on the package can deliver a very different effect inside the body. The gap between claims on the label and the actual impact of the product has widened, especially for those whose metabolism and cardiovascular system no longer handle these foods as smoothly as before. The biology of aging plays a direct role in why these changes matter now. As people grow older, arterial stiffness and reduced vascular compliance become more common, which means blood vessels react more strongly to pressure, sodium, and inflammatory triggers. Digestion also slows, so sugars and fats remain in the bloodstream longer than they would have decades earlier. On top of these changes, many seniors manage heart health with multiple medications. These drugs may alter how foods are absorbed or processed, and some ingredients can interfere entirely. One common example is grapefruit, which can interact with cholesterol and blood pressure medications. Another is the way vitamin K found in certain foods can counteract blood thinners. These everyday mismatches create risks that younger adults or people on fewer prescriptions rarely encounter. The concern is not that every product causes harm right away, but that the aging heart is more sensitive to combinations that once passed unnoticed. What complicates matters further is that packaging and advice often lag behind these realities. Many older adults shop carefully, scanning for low-fat, reduced sodium, or fiber-rich stickers, believing those markers guarantee safety. But modern food reformulation has made those shortcuts unreliable. A low-sodium option may include substitutes that interact poorly with blood pressure medications. A reduced-fat, frozen meal may rely on extra starches or salts to make up for flavor. Even when labels list the details, fonts are small, wording is selective, and health claims emphasize only the positive. The result is that seniors following instructions from doctors or guidelines from decades ago often find themselves unintentionally working against their own prescriptions and physiology. This shift explains why so many older adults, even those careful with diet, are still admitted for cardiovascular complications. They believe they are making progress, but are dealing with a food environment that has quietly changed beneath them. And it sets up a recurring problem that shows up in very specific product categories, the ones most seniors turn to, believing they're safe. Some of the most common examples appear in foods marketed as heart-smart options, yet inside, the substitutions can make them riskier for cardiovascular stability. The next section looks closely at one of the main culprits, a category almost everyone has in their pantry, and how its healthier versions may do more harm than good. The salty trap in low-sodium foods. Most people still hear the same advice from doctors when blood pressure creeps up. Cut back on salt. It's one of the most common recommendations for heart health, so it makes sense that products labeled low sodium feel like the obvious safe choice. For seniors especially, a can of soup or a pack of deli meat boasting reduced sodium looks like a supportive option. But here's where things get complicated. Lowering sodium itself can be helpful, yet the way companies achieve that reduction isn't always simple. And in some cases, those replacements can create a different kind of risk for older adults with slower kidney function or those on medications that already alter electrolyte levels. Take canned soup as an example. Manufacturers once just salted broth heavily because it was cheap and effective for flavor and preservation. As concern over sodium grew, companies introduced light versions with lower sodium to reassure shoppers. Instead of simply tasting a little blander, however, these formulations often rely on additives, the most common being potassium chloride. That swap can cut visible sodium on the label while keeping the same salty impression. But for seniors dealing with heart medications, that substitution isn't always benign. The same pattern shows up at the deli counter. Reduced sodium turkey slices are marketed as lean and heart-friendly. They sit in neatly packaged rows with phrases like natural choice or smarter option, designed to attract anyone trying to protect their heart. But what's missing in the marketing is the detail that many of these products rely on potassium salts for taste and preservation. A sandwich made with these lighter slices may fit the label's promise of lower sodium, yet it can still disrupt the body's mineral balance in people on common prescriptions. Potassium chloride, often listed as potassium chloride or KCl on ingredient lists, is the central player here. In theory, it seems like an elegant solution. Swap some sodium for potassium, gain taste without the same rise in blood pressure. But this is where age and medication introduce nuance. Seniors on ACE inhibitors, ARBs, or potassium-sparing diuretics are already at higher risk for potassium buildup in the blood. Add reduced kidney clearance, which naturally happens with age, and the likelihood of excess potassium rises quickly. The result isn't always immediate, but it can lead to irregular heart rhythms, fatigue, or sometimes sudden blood pressure changes that seem unrelated to diet, yet stem directly from what's in everyday food choices. This is why the trap feels so deceptive. People think they're doing the right thing, following advice to slash sodium, and instead end up increasing another mineral without realizing it. Picture someone carefully planning meals with healthy soups, cold cuts, and frozen in trays all labeled low sodium. On paper, the reduced sodium looks reassuring. In practice, by nightfall, the potassium load may be higher than the body can safely handle. For seniors already managing vascular stiffness and weakened kidney filtering, each meal quietly pushes the heart into a more precarious state. The packaging only deepens the confusion. Bold claims on the front celebrate what's missing. 30% less sodium, or heart-healthy choice. But the detail about potassium appears only in fine text near the ingredient list, and sometimes not clearly identified. Many seniors don't know to look for terms like potassium chloride or KCl. Without guidance, they may assume that the absence of sodium is the whole story, when in fact it's only part of what matters most for cardiovascular safety. Frozen meals illustrate the same problem. They're convenient, which matters for people living alone or wanting to avoid strenuous cooking. But those ready-to-heat dinners almost always rely on potassium salts to balance lower sodium. From a flavor perspective, manufacturers succeed. The food tastes seasoned. From a health perspective, the trade-off depends entirely on the individual. A 35-year-old with robust kidney filtration can usually tolerate the shift. A 75-year-old on lisinopril and a water pill may find their potassium climbing well into an unsafe zone within just a week of steady use. The chain effect makes this even more concerning. One low-sodium entree might not push things over the edge, but combine it with a low-sodium snack, soup, and deli slices across the same day, and the mineral load adds up. Research has observed seniors maintaining medication adherence, yet experiencing unexpected blood pressure swings or rhythm disturbances, and food reformulations with potassium salts are increasingly a factor. It's not carelessness. It's the silent change in how products are engineered. Imagine someone who has faithfully avoided salty chips and bacon ever since a heart scare. They proudly fill their fridge with low-sodium turkey and their freezer with low-sodium dinners. At the doctor's office, they recount their dedication to avoiding excess salt, expecting praise. but blood tests show higher potassium, and blood pressure that's harder to stabilize. They're baffled until the hidden role of potassium chloride is explained. The frustrating reality is that their good intentions collided with the reformulations of the modern grocery market. This doesn't mean sodium no longer matters. Too much sodium still contributes to fluid retention and higher pressure in arteries, and no cardiologist recommends dumping salt shakers without thought. But the key is recognizing moderation and context. For many older adults, the issue isn't simply sodium versus no sodium. It's sodium reduction achieved through quiet substitutions that introduce new interaction risks with their daily prescriptions. So what can be done? Start with awareness. Look specifically for potassium chloride or KCl on ingredient lists. If it's there, pause before assuming the product is universally healthier. Bring a current list of medications to check with your doctor or pharmacist whether salt substitutes are safe for you. It's a small step but a practical safeguard because the risks are highly context-dependent. Some seniors can handle potassium-enriched foods, while others must avoid them carefully. Another helpful habit is keeping a medication list handy when shopping. Even jotting prescriptions on a notepad or phone makes it easier to cross-check at the pharmacy if a new, heart-smart food seems questionable. Asking simple questions like, "Is potassium chloride safe with my prescriptions?" arms you with clarity that packaging never provides. And finally, remember that labels are advertising tools first. They highlight what marketers want you to notice. Less sodium, more fiber, smarter choice. But the fine print may hide the substitutions that make all the difference for older bodies. Treat the low-sodium promise as the start of an investigation rather than a guarantee of safety. Understanding this salty trap is about balancing reality. Sodium control does reduce cardiovascular strain, but not when achieved through substitutions that conflict with age-related changes or prescribed drugs. The smartest protection comes not from trusting loud health claims, but from matching food choices to individual physiology. That balance can prevent seniors from straining the heart in ways they never intended. And just as sodium replacement strategies create hidden pitfalls, there's another place where familiar foods seem safe but quietly undermine cardiovascular stability. It shows up not in savory meals, but in the most common way many people start their mornings. The silent sugar in senior breakfast staples. Most people don't think of breakfast as a risky meal. For years, it was promoted as the most important meal of the day, and cereals with fiber or fortified nutrients were presented as protective to digestion and heart health. But the cereals that line today's shelves are very different from the boxes many seniors grew up with. Versions once made from mostly whole grains now often contain multiple sweeteners hidden under names like malt syrup, brown rice syrup, or evaporated cane juice. Many of these cereals are packaged with promises of being gentle on digestion or supporting heart health, directly appealing to older adults. Yet, beneath the marketing, these bowls deliver far more sugar than most realize, setting up a nutritional trap disguised as wellness. When seniors eat these cereals, their blood sugar doesn't rise gradually. It often spikes. And while one sugary meal doesn't cause immediate, visible harm, the cumulative pattern matters. Here, the simplified chain. With age, metabolism slows, glucose clears from the bloodstream less efficiently, blood sugar stays higher for longer, and those extended spikes trigger more arterial inflammation. For older adults with stiffer arteries and less responsive blood vessels, this recurring stress increases cardiovascular strain over time. The problem compounds because many seniors already use medications meant to stabilize blood pressure, cholesterol, or rhythm, which are harder to regulate when blood sugar keeps surging unpredictably. The difference between youth and senior physiology makes this dynamic significant. A teenager might burn through those sugars by walking across campus or climbing stairs at school. An older adult with reduced activity doesn't metabolize them as quickly. Instead, excess sugars convert to triglycerides, which circulate in the bloodstream and contribute to plaque buildup. Each bowl of fiber cereal with added sweetness doesn't injure the arteries instantly, but repeated exposures create deposits and inflammation that accumulate slowly. Over the years, This leads to increased cardiovascular risk, even in individuals who believe they are following physician advice about light or high-fiber breakfasts. This scenario plays out in ordinary kitchens every morning. A senior might pour a large bowl of cereal labeled Fiber Boost and feel reassured because the front of the box suggests digestive support and heart benefits. They may even add fruit, believing this enhances the healthfulness of their meal. What they don't see is that the cereal already contains syrups and refined sweeteners that rapidly elevate glucose. While they may feel energized in the moment, the long-term cumulative effect is stress on the cardiovascular system and greater difficulty for medications to maintain stable results. Good intentions collide with a modern product that no longer aligns with the health image it projects. Part of the trap is the shift in how cereal is marketed. Oats, bran, or clusters are often highlighted for fiber, yet sugar levels sometimes match snack foods. A cereal could promote 6 grams of fiber per serving, but carry 20 or more grams of sugar in the portion most people actually pour. Serving size is key here. Nutrition labels are based on very small measures, often just half a cup. Few people eat so little. In reality, seniors often pour twice or 3 times the listed amount. That means the sugar intake is multiplied without it feeling obvious. By the time toast, juice, or even sweetened coffee are added, a supposedly light breakfast can equal the day's largest sugar load before lunch. The strain doesn't linger only as numbers on a nutrition label. It shifts how the body functions day after day. Regular glucose spikes encourage insulin resistance. This makes it harder to control blood sugar over time, creating more vascular inflammation and raising cardiovascular strain. Instead of protecting digestion and keeping energy steady, these cereals may contribute to the very outcomes they claim to guard against. Researchers point out that in seniors, where resilience is already lower, these cycles accelerate faster, leaving less margin for recovery than in younger adults. Over years, the repeated morning sugar jolt increases the risk of problems such as coronary plaque, stiffer arteries, or rhythm irregularities. The challenge is that many seniors genuinely try to read labels but face obstacles. Print is small, scientific terms mask ingredients, and the front of the box emphasizes what shoppers want to hear: fiber content, vitamins, whole grains. Added sugars remain hidden in the ingredient list, often under multiple names, so the total amount isn't obvious at a glance. Combined with slower or strained eyesight, shopping while standing under fluorescent lights becomes a barrier to careful analysis. This is why marketing can overrule caution. It's simply more practical for many to trust the bright claims rather than decipher the fine print. One practical step to lower breakfast risk is to move away from heavily processed cereals. Plain rolled oats or unsweetened whole grain cereals provide steady digestion without sugar rushes. Adding natural toppings like berries or crushed walnuts creates flavor, antioxidants, and fiber without relying on syrups or chemical sweeteners. Oats are inexpensive, versatile, and cook quickly, which makes them accessible to most households. This kind of swap reflects the advice recommended in many heart-healthy programs, including DASH and Mediterranean-style eating patterns, which emphasize whole grains, nuts, fruit, and gradual energy release instead of refined carbohydrates. Serving habits matter too. Even with healthier choices, portion sizes should match actual needs. Nutrition experts from Mayo Clinic and CDC often suggest measuring a serving once with a measuring cup or using a smaller bowl to reset expectations. For seniors especially, these habits prevent absent-minded overpouring. Instead of tripling the serving size unintentionally, measured portions let the body handle sugar in more manageable units. These small actions make a significant difference over time because blood sugar stays steadier and easier to manage alongside prescribed medications. Sometimes it helps to frame it in real-life terms. Imagine energy levels as waves. A high-sugar cereal shoots levels up quickly, followed by a crash, then another spike with the next meal. Over years, those wild waves strain arterial walls and demand more from the heart. By contrast, oats with fruit and nuts create a slow, mild rise and steady release, the kind of wave the heart and blood vessels can handle with less stress. That difference doesn't show up immediately in one day. But across months and years, it yields fewer extreme swings and less need for medication adjustments. Of course, sugar itself is not poison, and not every senior must avoid all cereal completely. What matters most is frequency, portion, and type of product. A sweet cereal once in a while is less concerning than daily habits. The danger arises where marketing leads older shoppers to replace bacon or eggs with large bowls of healthy cereals every morning, unaware of how the cumulative sugar intake undermines cardiovascular stability. It's not one meal alone that matters most, but the pattern repeated thousands of times across years. The big picture is recognizing that breakfast has been reframed by industry. Once marketed to children with cartoon characters, cereals have shifted toward older adults with promises of digestion and heart support. But the recipes themselves have evolved to rely more heavily on hidden sweeteners that aren't obvious at first glance. That contrast, health claim versus actual content, is the gap seniors must close for themselves by paying closer attention and building simple, sustainable habits that fit their reality. By seeing breakfast clearly, seniors protect themselves from one of the most overlooked sources of excess sugar in their diets. Reading ingredient lists, checking serving size honestly, and favoring whole food alternatives give the cardiovascular system the predictability it needs. It's less about perfection and more about consistency, creating meals that match the body's current stage of health. But cereals and sweetened grains aren't the only familiar foods whose ingredients have shifted with time. Many trusted classics from past decades now show up in more processed forms, with added sodium, stabilizers, and preservatives that weren't present in the versions people grew up eating. That change has reshaped not just breakfast, but entire comfort meals many seniors still reach for when they want something familiar. Comfort foods that changed since retirement days. The foods long associated with warmth and family tables have shifted more than most seniors realize. Mac and cheese, meatloaf, and even frozen dinners may still look familiar, but their ingredients today reflect a world centered on shelf life and flavor engineering rather than simplicity. What feels like a reminder of earlier decades often behaves very differently in the body of someone managing heart health in retirement. Take boxed mac and cheese. In the 1970s, preparing it usually meant boiling some pasta and stirring real cheddar into a quick cream sauce. Today's boxed versions contain powders blended from processed oils, colorings, and sodium-heavy flavor enhancers. The noodles, once just flour and water, are reformulated to cook quickly and resist clumping. On the surface, the dish still looks like the same golden bowl of comfort, but its nutritional profile is far more complicated. Seniors who believe they are eating a familiar meal are in fact consuming additives that add stress to arteries already less flexible with age. One simple swap is to make mac and cheese at home using whole grain pasta and real cheese, controlling the salt level instead of relying on a powdered mix. Meatloaf tells a similar story. Once, it was mainly fresh ground beef, breadcrumbs, onion, and maybe a touch of ketchup. Ready-made versions today often include a seasoning packet with preservatives and sodium levels far higher than homemade recipes, allowing them to sit in freezer aisles for months. That same loaf that looks so familiar may now stretch across 20 ingredients, many unpronounceable. With every extra additive, the body has to work harder to process unfamiliar chemicals, and with every layer of sodium, blood pressure faces another subtle jolt. A small adjustment here is just as straightforward. Skip the packet, use fresh onions, garlic, and herbs for flavor, and keep the loaf closer to the version your body already knows. Frozen dinners may be the clearest example of change. Decades ago, they were simple, smaller portions, with technology dictating limits on what could be stored. Modern frozen trays are built to survive long distribution chains and months of freezing. Stabilizers and preservatives guarantee the food holds form and taste, even if it sits in a freezer for half a year. What seems to be a plate of potatoes, vegetables, and meat is often reconstructed from dehydrated flakes and reconstituted oils. Sodium levels, too, are markedly higher to compensate for lost flavor during freezing. That convenient portion now hosts silent risks that multiply when eaten regularly. A lower-cost adjustment here is to keep bags of plain frozen vegetables on hand and pair them with fresh-cooked proteins, still convenient, but without the chemical load. Researchers studying changes in processed food since the 1970s note a consistent pattern. Convenience products once made with a shorter list of ingredients now carry far more sodium, preservatives, and added fats than their homemade counterparts ever did. This is especially important for older adults, whose vascular systems are less adaptable and whose metabolism clears these substances more slowly. Seniors who prepare these foods thinking they are the same as what they grew up with may notice unexpected blood pressure swings, medication adjustments, or lab results they didn't anticipate. The culprit is not carelessness, but a quiet change in formulations across decades. What makes this challenge sharper is the emotional tie. A retiree buying a box of mac and cheese or a package of frozen lasagna may simply want to reconnect with a taste that meant comfort years ago. Nostalgia maintains trust, even if the underlying product has changed dramatically.